Is a Range Rover a little bit too common for you? Do you want something that says I'm extremely rich, quite posh, but don't take the mickey too much because I've got a couple of trench guns in the boot? Well, I think I have the answer. It's a Range Rover, but this is the Holland Holland edition by Overfinch. Coming up, posh guns, and these are absolutely beautiful. Embossed game birds, both grouse and pheasant. Some sigils from the tomb of an elder god, and booze-filled shotgun cartridges. Okay, so that sounds a little bit like a collaboration wrapped up in a branding exercise, but this could quite possibly be the most expensive Range Rover currently in production. And that's because it starts at double a Range Rover SV long wheelbase autobiography's recommended price of roughly £225,000. It's not about the driving either, because this car is largely standard as far as the mechanicals go, which is very suave, but not that much different to normal. Thing is, in the right spec, this is very easily a 550 grand Range Rover. Can it possibly be worth the money? I suggest we take a closer look to find out. And £550,000 is just the start. In a moment, we'll show you how you can add a few digits to that price, including with an option that's so expensive it travelled separately to the studio. So first up, this starts life as a long wheelbase SV autobiography with the P615 V8, so that's 615 brake horsepower and a mild hybrid system. Overfinch then does Overfinch things to the outside, except more discreetly than usual. Now, Overfinch has been modifying Land Rover products since the mid-70s, except it calls it enhancing, and you can get little but expensive mods for Range Rovers and Defenders old and new, engine upgrades, exhaust, interior retrims and some very tasty wheel options. But if you go for the full programme, you get a car that's apparently been redefined, which means a carbon fibre body kit, engine tweaks and more diamond quilting for the leather than you can shake a bespoke artisan stick at. You can tell the full conversion cars are expensive because they don't tell you the prices. But these 24-inch Vortex wheels for the full-fat Range Rover are just under 20 grand on their own, and the exhaust is nearly 9, so you can imagine the rest. But the Holland Holland edition is slightly more subtle. Overfinch bonnet badge in gold, a different grille, Holland Holland crest and checkering. Very deep British Racing green paint. Bespoke 23-inch wheels with gimbaled centre caps. More gold, more checkering, more scroll work, more Holland Holland. Just in case you forgot. And then at the rear we have a full width light bar with the Overfinch blade and some more gold. But I actually think it's quite subtle. So actually it's a very nice, stylish edit of a Range Rover. But that's not actually the best bit, because this is the best bit. Holland Holland are gun makers that make shotguns and rifles, but there's nothing basic about them, and they've been at it since 1835, which is before Darwin arrived in Australia. And their guns are more heirlooms than ordnance, insanely pretty chunks of handcrafted lethality. This car is inspired by Holland Holland's Royal side-by-side shotgun, so it's got the similar engraved scrollwork and insane woodworking. It's fairly over the top and yet utterly brilliant. It's the ultimate posho rangy. But it's in the boot where things get really interesting, because in the rear is a set of piggybacked companion chests made by Holland Holland. So what do you actually get? Well, apart from a lack of usable luggage space, you get these two chests that sit on top of one another, complete with full quilting, leather and open pore walnut, which store various bits and bobs. So if I open this, you'll notice that there are two rather lovely bottles of champagne, which is good for a picnic. And then on this side, 8 champagne flutes, monogrammed and engraved with the Holland Holland crest, which is rather lovely. Then you also get a staghorn corkscrew, something I really quite like. And it's quite themic because there are champagne corks with little silver grouse on the top, 2 of those. And then something that's a bit old school, and smoking is bad, kids, but in here is a cigar case with a cigar cutter. I'm not sure what that's for, but you know, it's all very nice. And if I push this back and then open this lower drawer, we have cutlery, plates and monogrammed Holland Holland napkins, obviously, for 8 people again, so you can have a posh picnic. And then the pièce de résistance, if I open this bit, you get, again, a walnut table on which you can put whatever you want. You get 8 cut glass little tumblers with the Holland Holland crest in, some gin and sloe gin, and these shotgun cartridges, which look like goose gun cartridges, but if you open the tops, they are actually little hip flasks. So you can get loaded in all sorts of different ways, as long as Jeeves is in attendance, obviously. More napkins, more luxury, a little walnut table to do whatever you need. But if I open this and pop that up there, you see exactly what this car is all about. Now this is a matched pair of Holland Holland, the Royal shotguns. You can see the little engraving here. And these are absolutely beautiful. This is all walnut. You can see all the cross-hatching on the stock here and all the engraving. It's really tiny and handmade and beautiful. And they will set you back, as a pair of twins, between £360,000 and £370,000. And yeah, you did hear that right.
But let's just recap how much the lack of boot space will set you back. Those guns were £360,000 to £370,000, and yes, a man bought them specially to the studio and watched me intently while I was anywhere near them. But the companion cases are also extra at around £50,000 to £60,000, so that's £400,000 to make your boot not very practical. But the boot isn't the whole story. There's more to see in the cabin proper. And just to be clear, Overfinch and Holland have history when it comes to putting posh cases full of booze and guns into the boot of Range Rovers. I remember driving the previous version of this collaboration back in 2009-ish. Same idea, just older.
I'm going to start in the back because if you've bought one of these things, this is probably where you want to end up. And the first thing you notice is there is a lot of leather. And you can have it in 3 different colourways as standard. So you can have it full London tan, you can have full Harris green, or you can have it like this, which is a split. So it's more green in the front and slightly more tan in the rear. And it does have all the usual stuff that a really top-end car, especially a limousine, might have. So you've got a lovely little touchscreen here, which if I just open it like that, you can pop up the electrically operated table, which is for whatever you do in the back of a limousine. Then you can pop up the cup holders electrically, which is possibly one of the most pointless things I've ever seen in a car. Then there is a fridge here, just behind this checkered Holland Holland inscribed little marquetry. So if you press that, you can reveal storage for some wine, champagne, and a couple of flutes. Close that up. Then there's obviously little comfort cushions. But the rest of the car really is inspired by the gunsmithery. So this is the fore end of the Royal shotgun. And if you check out, it's got this checker wood sort of carving grip here. And then on the back, it's got these little lozenge-shaped engraved parts. And if you look on the doors, these actually have them embedded in the door cards. Now, the head of engraving and the master engravers at Holland Holland actually engraved these themselves. And then they've scaled and reshaped these door card engraved pieces specifically to fit in this vehicle, so it all matches up. It's not just kind of cut and paste. The attention to detail is absolutely bonkers. So even on the door handles, you've got the checkering and the engraving on the wood to make it feel super tactile. Everything you touch, everything you feel is just so. It's perfect. It smells good, it feels good, and it's all perfectly lined up. It feels like a very high quality product. But if you do find yourself in the driver's seat, you won't feel shortchanged because it's more of the same. Up here we have swathes and swathes of quilted green leather, complete with the same game birds embroidered into the back of the chairs. You've got lots of open pore walnut again with some gold accents. Even the gear stick and the steering wheel have little Holland and Holland logos embossed into the sides and the same marquetry, the kind of checker pattern on the open pore walnut gear knob. Even the adjusters for the armrests are milled from solid brass, and they feature engravings lifted from the shotguns. Then there's the door cards with the same engraving, and even the door pulls have got all the same stuff on. It does feel very, very posh. So, I guess the big question is the Holland and Holland edition by Overfinch Range Rover really worth the cash? Well, I happen to think that things are only really worth what people are prepared to pay, but given the wow factor when you open those doors, and the fact that only 25 of these things will ever be built, I have to say, yeah, it probably is worth the money. But if you didn't have very expensive guns, what would you use the companion chest for? Let me know in the comments.